Hey everyone, today I'm going to take you through creating an automation inside of our brand new messaging pilot. This is actually the tool that our team is using today on virtualpbx.com to talk to our customers. And this is a real automation that I am going to create for our real life sales team. So I'll take you from start to finish. Perfect place to start is just planning, making sure that we have everything that we're going to need in place to create this automation. So first, here's my plan. What I want is that when our sales team has a conversation with a lead, they want to move that conversation into our CRM, create a deal so that they can create a proposal and send that out. So I know I want to create a deal. I want to link the person and the organization to that deal. I'll add a note to the deal as well with any context that should be helpful for the team or anything that I can just give them a hand and bring over from the messaging pilot. And then I'm going to create an activity to follow up with that lead. Now, those steps are kind of the basics between marketing and sales in our company that we make sure, whenever we're creating a deal for the sales team, that it just has each of those things. So first, I need our application. So I've sent a message in here to the team so that I can create that button basically off of the message. So I've sent that message in. I've got my pilot, I have my automation tool, and I have Pipedrive, our CRM. Those are the 4 things that I'm going to need to create this. So first, let's just go check and make sure that that message came through. Unassigned, there it is. This is the message I'm going to create an automation based off of. And here's what I want to happen. There's this option here to forward the message to an automation. So here you can, and you see some information already. So here's the message that I'm forwarding. We have a couple that the team created already. Escalate ticket is another really good common example. We have a DevOps team that is super technical, and often a customer who is doing something really custom will need to escalate that to the DevOps team to help finish that up. So we have that option here. What we want to create is something for the sales team. So in here too, we see that we're going to have the option to add a note and we can forward that. So those are the basics of how I want this thing to run. Now let's create the automation. So cancel that out. We'll head over to integrations. We're going to create a webhook. This name is what our team is going to see when they forward a message and they see that list of options. So we're going to make sure that that is just super simple and very clear what it's going to do. And that is that it's going to create a sales deal in Pipedrive. All right, next we need our webhook. Again, we use N8N for a lot of our automations. You might use something like Zapier or Automate. The steps that I'm going to go through will be pretty similar across those other tools. Of course, the interfaces look a little bit different, but the steps in particular and the information that you're going to receive from the webhook, that should all be the same. So first, let's look for webhook. There it is. Our HTTP method is going to be a post. I'm going to go ahead and grab that production URL. Let's go ahead and save this, turn it on, because the way that I want to test is I want to see real life information. I want to see that thing go through for real, just the way that it would when our sales team clicks that button, forwards the message to the automation. So I copied my webhook URL. I'm going to plug it in here. Let's give this thing a description in case anyone is looking at the automations. Maybe they are a little bit similar. We want to know what this one exactly does. So this will create a deal in Pipedrive. We want it to connects the person and organization, creates follow up activity, adds a note to the deal with context. Now these event types here are the types of events that will fire your automation every single time that happens. That's not what we want to do. We want the option that allows message forwarding. So again, this is just the option that someone can click that forward button in a conversation, and then they choose from the automations what thing that they want to have happen next. Create that webhook. From here, we see a couple of handy things. We can test the webhook from here. Over time, we'll be able to just see some good stats as well. This will be kind of interesting for Create Sales Deal too, just to see, how many times our team is pressing that button. There's our description that we created. And now we're going to go back into that conversation. We're going to do this thing in real time. So we've forwarded that. There is our new webhook. And we'll just give, here is the context from the forwarded message. Forward the message. So sometimes in tools like this, you'll run a test event. You'll listen for that test event and it'll come in. I did it in real life. So what I should see, I have something under my executions. So let's just pop that open. And we can see here all of the information that I'm going to be able to use when I create my automation. This is a great place to check and make sure that you have what you need to continue the automation. So I have my message that I created the automation back off of. If I look through here, I see the channel was web chat. That's actually pretty interesting. In our tool, for example, I differentiate in marketing if someone first came in by chat, by inbound SMS. So I can use that information later inside my automation if I want. Let's see what else I get. I have some contact ID information. I know if my conversation has been archived or not. Let's see. Oh, perfect. This is the information I definitely needed. I know that I needed some information to look up my contact in Pipedrive. In a lot of tools, you'll do that by looking up their email address. It's kind of like the closest thing in a lot of ways that you get to having an ID that's shared across different tools. So I'm going to look up Rachel Testing by email address. We have some location information. This could be useful, especially if you have a brand new contact inside of your CRM that you might note their location or at minimum what time zone that they're in. Let's see what else. I have some date and time information. It looks like I was talking to customer care. That's an interesting note that we might use. Let's see what else we have. We note what account it's coming from. Let's see, it looks like we should have everything that we need because I'm going to base this mostly off of the contact and then rely on the CRM. If this is a known person, then we already have all those bits of information cleared, but we'll at least get this one in. And if this person, this version of Rachel Testing has a company, it'll attach that as well. So it looks like we have everything that we need to get started. All right, let's copy all of our JSON. We're gonna go back to the editor. We're going to paste all of our test information and save that. Okay, so now we've gotten everything that we needed from the messaging pilot, and we're going to start pushing things into our CRM. And first, we know we have two scenarios. We know we have the scenario that it will find the person from our conversation in our CRM. And there's also the possibility that that person doesn't exist yet, and we need to create them. So we're going to search for that person in Pipedrive. So we're going to search for Pipedrive, search a person. We're going to search for them by their email address. So we can just drag that in here. Let's see. We also know it's going to not find them. So the way that this works differently in different tools. In Zapier, for example, when you use their node to search for a person with Pipedrive, it will give you an option within that exact same step to create a person if that person doesn't exist yet. N8N does it a little bit differently. So in this case, we do that underneath the settings and on error. So if it looks for this person, they don't exist, what should it do? We want it to continue and to create basically an extra path for that error. And let's go ahead and give this one a test. I'm pretty sure this person exists maybe even a couple of times inside of our CRM. So we should see that this one goes to the success branch. Yes, it did. And there's those 3 times. And then the error branch, we don't see anything. So let's continue down the success branch path. Once we get that path finished, we'll go ahead and then take care of the error branch. So in this case, we found our person. We're ready to create our deal. That's another Pipedrive step. We want to, wow, that's a lot of options. We want to create a deal. And we searched for the person first because now that they have been found, we can also attach them to this deal. So let's see, we already have our account created. We're creating a deal. We need to give that deal a title. Typically, we will give a little bit of information about that particular deal within the title just to make it easy for the sales team to grab it and run. So let's say this is Rachel Anderson, and let's say from chat. So now you'll see that's a dynamic field. I like N8N because it'll show you underneath exactly how your sample will come through, especially when you're using dynamic fields and sometimes you have a handful of dynamic fields stacked next to each other. You're not always sure if you have the right spacing or punctuation. And here you just get a nice little output of what that's going to look like. So, okay, we have a title for the deal. We're going to associate it with a person. We searched for a person in the last step. So on the right here, you see all of our previous steps. So far, we've sent data into a webhook. We've searched for a person. We know that that person ID is going to be in that search for a person step. So here it is, the ID. We'll just drag that over here. We could just continue from this step. This is the bare minimum that this CRM needs to create a deal, but we want to give as much information as we can in our case. So let's take a look at the different fields we can plug in. So let's see, organization ID is a good one. So if this person that we searched for had an organization associated with it, let's link them up. And in this case, they do. Here's the organization they're tied to, and we want the ID. Next, let's see, we want to put this in a particular stage. So in our case, we know if someone was talking to our team in sales, sales felt, hey, that person's ready to receive a proposal. I know what stage I want them in. I want them in our new business sales pipeline. Oops, not unverified, verified. The status is open. Username or ID. Oh, this one's interesting. So if we look back at our first step, we saw the person that pushed the message in. So in this case, we can see that Rachel Anderson forwarded that message. Now, I know, and you can kind of see the look here, all of our users in Pipedrive, as long as the naming convention looks exactly the same as this, I should be able, and mine does, we can see right there, I should be able to take this name and dynamically assign the owner. Now that might be an incorrect assumption. We may decide, for example, that as soon as it goes into that pipeline, it's assigned to one specific user. Maybe inside your CRM you have dynamic routing rules. There could be a number of ways that you choose to assign this particular user. And I mentioned as well, it works for us because the naming convention is the same in both tools. But what if it weren't? And for example, you can see here it's asking for a name or an ID. So inside our CRM, all of our users have IDs. If there was no way to just dynamically handle that within one node inside of N8N, I could create a lookup node where I basically have a table of all of our users' names in our messaging pilot, all of the IDs from the CRM, and then map them, and then pull that information in this, which would then become the step after that. Looks like I don't need to do that. So I'm going to switch this to expression. I'm going to drag and drop the name here. See how that works. And let's just double check and see if there's any other field that we want to add. I don't think so. That should do it. So let's give, we have an error. Oh, it looks like it doesn't like the username like that anyways. So we're going to go back to plan A, which was we're putting this in a pipeline where usually when it gets to a certain stage, we're going to assign it to this person here, Justin Goodpaster. So once we do that, we're going to hopefully not get an error message. Okay, now that created our deal, this is a good point to go and check on that deal, make sure that it came in the way that we expected it to. So here we are in our pipeline, and we have it right here. So let's just verify that it came through the way that we wanted it to. We've got our name from chat. It's in the stage that we want it to be in. We see that it's connected to a person and an organization, and we didn't put in any information that doesn't match. This is all looking pretty good. Okay, so now that we have our deal created, we're going to add a little bit of extra context on that deal. So in Pipedrive, we're going to create a note. We're going to see what information we can bring over from that chat to help out the sales team. So let's see. We know we're going to want to use the note. Let's see, let's put that near the end. Let's say, I think it's interesting to see the name of the inbox. So let's say chat from inbox, customer care web chat. Let's put in let's see, I want the forwarded message, not just the note. Here it is. And again, here's where that preview really comes in handy. We can see with my dynamic fields that the punctuation is still correct, and we can just check and make sure it flows. So chat from inbox, customer care web chat. This is a message I'm going to create an automation based off of. Let's add a little extra context to that forwarded note. Let's just say note. And then let's just do a quick pass here to see if there's anything else that we want to bring over. We do have some, so our inbox name already included the channel, so I don't think we need to bring it in there, but that's interesting if you wanted to note if it came from SMS or web chat. If it was inbound versus outbound. There's some other things in here that might be interesting, like we could note how many messages there were, which could give you an idea of just how much back and forth was going on. Same for notes. If there was anything that we wanted to include for if it was archived or if it was still an active conversation. We've already got that. We could, I mean, all of this information is really up for grabs, but I'm not going to include it in mine. And then all of this information here, let's see, is about the contact. We've already connected our contact, so I'm not going to do that either. Here we have some other information like the name of the team. We have kind of that in the inbox already, so we'll just keep it like that. Got that. Okay, I think we have, well, let's include who it was forwarded by just in case. Okay, so let's just bring in their name. Come on, there we go. So let's get this final preview in here. So chat from inbox, customer care web chat. This is the message when we off, the note, forwarded by. I think we've got what we need. So that's going to be the content of the note. I also want to associate that note with the deal and with the person. So let's bring in that deal ID. That was our last step. So we'll go under create a deal, find the ID, bring that in. And then let's also attach it to the person. So we've got the person. This is one of those use cases where I could actually grab that person ID from two separate places. We searched for the person, we got their ID that way. We created a deal, we attached the person to that deal, so we have their ID in here as well. Either is fine. We'll bring it in from this last step. So let's execute that step. Looks like it was successful. Let's check on our deal. Here it is. I'm happy with that. That looks good. And then last thing, let's schedule an activity for the sales team to follow up with that deal. So one last Pipedrive step in this path. We want to create an activity. Let's just make the activity call. It's not done yet. The type is a call. And let's add some extra information. So let's associate it with our deal. Let's pull that idea from our create deal stage. We can also associate that with our person. So same thing. Let's grab that person's ID. Here it is. What else can we include? Let's give them a little note. Let's make sure we're assigning it to the same person that's assigned to the deal. And let's give it a due date. So first let's do that. Let's give it to Justin. Let's create a note. Follow up with lead from chat. And then let's give it a due date. So we're making an assumption here. This can be something that you can do a number of ways. So you'll see, and I don't like that they give you this as sort of the default option. We would never really want our automation to create an activity for every single one of these on the same date. So really what we want to do is set something dynamic. We, in our sales team, we can assume that if they just push this in, let's have them give them a call right away. You can also do this by an expression. So if you had a more complex way that you wanted to say that, for example, I want to wait, 2 days and make sure that it's at 2 p.m. that day, you could write a quick mathematical expression to do exactly that. In my case, I'm going to make it just super easy. I'm going to say now. And let's see, I believe I have to do that under expression. I forgot this one. What happens if I just say today? Oh, it doesn't let me do it. Well, this is a good time for Google. So let's ask Google N8N date field. There it is. So it looks like there's a couple of different options for syntax. We've got this, which we'll give a try first. Okay. That that one will do it. Okay, perfect. So we have our activity we're creating. It's going to be a call. It's not done. The type is also call. We're associating that with our deal. It has a due date. We got a note. It's assigned to the person and to our user. This looks ready to go. Let's go ahead and execute that step. Looks successful. Let's go take a peek. There is our call. So it looks like that brought everything we wanted in. We have our note. It's assigned to Justin. Today, that's the person and the org it's associated with. So that takes care of this full path. Now we need to create a follow-up path in case it does not find the person. And actually some of these things are going to be fairly similar. The only thing that we need to do in this path that we didn't do above is to create a person. Otherwise, all of these steps we can copy and then just double check their fields and make sure that they have been updated so that we're not looking at the wrong node for information. So I'm going to copy and paste all of that over here. Let's leave a little extra space. And then we need some data to go down our error path. So first, let's go back into our webhook. And this is one of the nice things that most automation tools have. Zapier has a very similar way they do this, so does N8N. Instead of having to go back to the application, basically create a new scenario where I can trigger something that gives me the data that I need, I have the format, the correct fields, the values and the fields that I need. All I really need is to give some information slightly differently. So I'm going to edit the output. We know this person exists. We need an email that doesn't exist inside of our CRM. So let's come up with something like not a real email at email.com. No way that exists in our CRM. So we'll hit save here. And now we can see when we look at the data, it's changed. So instead of looking at that email we used for our first path, we're going to use this different email. So we've got that. You'll see this node just turned yellow. So it now is interpreting the previous steps information and it hasn't processed it yet. So let's go into it. We'll see here that it's going to bring in that not a real email at email.com. We want that to go into the error branch. Let's see if it does. All right, so we don't see anything in the success branch or the error branch. But we know there is no data because it's looking for a person that doesn't exist. So in this case, there's nothing that it's pulling when it's looking for the person. So we should be good to go here to then create our person in Pipedrive. And let's see. Okay, yeah, perfect. So here we see that it went through that search a person step, but it didn't come out with anything. So that's exactly what we wanted to see. We knew that that person didn't exist. So in the webhook now, we're just going to map some fields over to create our person. So first we need their name. There it is. And then we're going to fill out any other information that we can. So we know their email. Oops. They are a lead in our system, so let's label them appropriately. They don't have an organization. Oh, here's something interesting. So we can give a phone. Now, someone may have come in via web chat and verified their email address, and we would have their email address. Someone could have also come in by web chat or by SMS and then verified SMS. So in some cases, we may have a phone number. We also might see that a contact that exists may have both. So in case there is a phone number, let's bring it in. In this case, we'll see that there is no phone number, so that'll just pass an empty field. We're okay with that. And then let's see if there's anything else. Let's assign that to who we would assign the deal to. And let's just double check and see if there's any custom properties that we want to bring in. Let's see, we've got, ooh, lead entry point. That's a good one. We want to tell them they came in by chat. And that should do it. We'll leave everything else out. So now we're creating a person. They've got a name. They have a lead entry point, an email. They're labeled. They're assigned to someone. In case we have a phone number that's coming through, let's go ahead and test that. All right, it says that it executed that successfully. So it didn't give us any output data. It doesn't look like it actually flowed either. So there must be something wrong with this step. We're searching a person. So it considers it still a success, even if it did not find the person. But what I do have that's different is that in the success branch, the output's like there's nothing in there, versus when it finds a person, there's tons of data. So I think we'll just break it apart to a different path somewhere else. So let's continue instead. Let's execute that step and see what we get. Okay, we do get empty information. Let's make a little room over here. And what we really want is to create a branch. So let's say, let's do a true false. So what we want to know is if in that search a person, if it came up with anybody. So let's see all the data that we get. We have an ID would probably be the best. So let's say if the ID exists, that's all we really want. So let's see if that works. In this case, it should say that it doesn't exist. And this suggests to us that that is true. So let's execute that step. So the ID exists, that's false. Good, we have that in a different branch now. Let's just verify though that this still works for our case of having a person. So we're gonna edit that first webhook. Save it. Oops. Execute. Tons of data, perfect. Let's run our if statement. Can already tell it's gonna work, it's green. Let's see, it was expecting this. Didn't quite get what it wanted. Enable converting types are required. Convert the first field to a string by adding to string. Oh, all right, it was looking. Oh, it wanted an object. We want a number. Is this? Let's try that again. All right, perfect. Okay, so that'll work. Let's get that arranged a little bit better. Okay, so now if that person exists, connect it to our deal. Fantastic. We'll double check our settings in there. Should all work though just fine. Yep, all that information. Green is a great indication that that's actually coming through the way that we want it to, so no worries there. And then really what we want to do is now connect our false path. So let's get back into that person that we were creating. Now we should see that we can do so. Let's execute that step. Oh, you know what? We gotta go back and update this email. Save. Okay, let's try that from the front. Cool, we got no data. We'll send that through our if. Perfect, it goes to our false branch. Now when we try and create a person, all that information should populate. Perfect. Okay, we created a person. Let's just go check them out real quick inside. So one easy way to do that in Pipedrive is just in the URL. Oops. All right, there we go. We've got Rachel testing, lead, the email. We knew there wasn't a phone here. We see their entry point was chat. All right, this is all looking good. Let's finish it up. Okay, so next we want to connect that to our deal. Here's where some of the data is going to be a little bit differently. Remember, we copied this from our first path, so it may be looking for a step that just doesn't exist in this path, and that's true here. So let's get rid of, let's get rid of the entire organization. Still going to put it in the same stage, still going to be open, still going to be Justin's. The ID is coming through from the previous step. We see it right here. The naming is going to be the same. Let's execute that. Now we should see this person has a deal associated, and we do. Oops. Here is that deal. It looks like it has all the information we want. So we're going to then create our note. Let's just make sure that comes over. Check from inbox, that's all the same. That's mapped over the same. We have the deal, we have the person. That should just work. No changes. There's our note. Fantastic. And then let's just work out that last step to create an activity. Make sure that everything's still connected. Yes, 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 yes. All right, we've got it. So that is our automation complete. We ran into a couple of roadblocks, but I feel like that maybe made the example a little bit more realistic for you guys. I hope this was helpful for all of you to see the first automation inside of our tool. Before we leave, let's give this thing a name, because it wasn't just an example. This is something that our sales team is going to use starting today. So let's give this one a name, create a Pipedrive deal from pilot forwarded message. Our DevOps team also really likes it when you give the ID. Oh, I could just grab that here. When you put the ID in the name, just in case they see some kind of error. So let's put that in there and make sure this thing is saved, and that's it. Oh, one thing I forgot. So often when we send data from one tool to another for our team, we like to leave a little bit of a breadcrumb trail, let them jump back into whatever that original application screen was. So inside of our note field, we're going to create basically a link to get people back into that individual conversation. And the best way to do that really is first to figure out what our URL structure is. So inside of my conversation, and I'll just grab one here, I can see that I've got a URL that has the ID right in there. So I'm going to grab that, head back over here. So there's the first part. And then now I'm looking for my conversation ID. That's in the very first step here. Let's see if we can find it. Looks like that's the message ID, but I might want, I want the conversation ID. So let's put that in there at the very end. Oops, there we go. Looks like that looks good. Let's just execute this. Okay. Aha, There we go. Let's test it. I'm back in my conversation. Excellent. That worked. We are so excited for you to start building your own automations in our messaging pilot. If you haven't yet joined our waitlist, make sure you do that right away at virtualtext.com. We still have a few more waitlist spots, and new customers are entering in December right now. So make sure you get on that list, and we look forward to seeing what you create. Thanks. Bye.